Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is Tuesday, January 15th, 2018. So we are halfway through January, which is good. So I want to jump right into the video today. And we're going to talk about living in an underground bunker. Could you do it? And hold on one second. I'm keeping an eye on these guys. They get very curious. Caesar, do not. Hey, good boy. Good girl, Pandora. Good girl. Okay, so could you live in an underground bunker if you had to? Now let's be realistic about underground bunkers, okay? We're going to talk about a couple things. So people, think, let's say if there was a nuclear event or a Yellowstone catastrophe, you would have to try to get underground. And so the average person, I mean, if we're lucky, let's say we could build let's say a 12 by 12 underground bunker, okay? And you kind of use it for your food storage and stuff like that. So you'd have it pretty full of things and stuff like that. But if you had like a 12 by 12 underground bunker that you were utilizing as like food storage, cold storage, that type of thing, and an event happens. So now, like in the Midwest and all that, they have a lot of storm shelters, and they're not really that big. So what you're going to be looking at trying to survive in an underground bunker, first of all, you're going to have clean air. So you're going to have some way to have the outside air filtered to be clean enough to be able to breathe underground, especially like with a Yellowstone event, because volcanic ash is basically glass. And once that gets into your lungs, it mixes like cement. So that would kill you. I mean, you would drown in your own fluids, basically. Your lungs would solidify and you would drown. So I mean, that's obviously not a very pleasant way of looking at it. And if it's if it's a nuclear type of situation, radiation would kill you if you go outside. So you're going to have some way to filter that air. That's number one. Okay. Number two, your waste. What are you going to do with your waste? Okay, I mean, if you were crapping in a bucket under there, if you obviously don't have some kind of sanitation set up ahead of time, and who can really afford that? I mean, the ultra rich, but other than that, I mean, so now you're looking at that. What are you going to do with all your waste? And if depending on how many people you have down there with you, let's say you have that little 12 by 12 area, and you have 4 or 5 people in there. Now it's going to get a little cramped, and you're going to be on top of each other. You would definitely go stir crazy. Okay, so you're going to be looking at how are you going to get rid of that waste, for that many people as well. So somehow you're going to have to get rid of that. Having a way to cook your food underground. Okay, have to have now. Here's another thing you're going to have to look at. What are you going to be doing for power? So a lot of people have asked if there was a Yellowstone event, and after the ash was everywhere to start with, and even here in New York, I think they're saying we would get between 1 and 3 centimeters or millimeters of ash up here. So, because even we're 2,100 miles away, but we would still get some of that ash. The only place it really wouldn't would be the very bottom of Texas and the very bottom of Florida, or the tip down like in Miami would probably be like the only 2 places that really wouldn't get any ash at all because they're that far away. Other than that, whatever state you're in, you're going to get some degree of ash, and basically the Midwest would be buried. It would be pretty bad. I mean, we're looking at up to at least 3 feet or more, and with that, it's going to collapse buildings and those type of things. But anyway, we're getting off topic. So you're going to have some kind of power. So you're going to be looking at some kind of, hopefully like a wind turbine or something to generate some kind of power. Now on top of that, you're going to have some kind of batteries. So again, we're looking at room. Okay, how much room do you have? So a 12 by 12 would actually be way too small. Even a 12 by 24, if let's say you had a 12 by 24, that's still going to get cramped, especially for, let's say, 5 people. I mean, and all your stuff that you're going to need to have. You're going to be able to have to cook. Some way to do that. You're going to have power. You're going to have something to do. Now let's talk about getting stir crazy underground for an extended long period of time with, 4 or 5 people. Some people will not be able to handle that very well. They will lose their freaking minds. You know, they're going to want to get outside. Realistically, after a Yellowstone event, the smart thing to do would try to be to stay underground for at least a couple of months if you could, to wait for things to kind of dissipate. And when you came out, it would definitely be a volcanic winter, so you'd be looking at some pretty crappy weather for quite a long time. Having fresh drinking water. I mean, how much water are you going to have, you know, underground? Do you have access under there to some kind of fresh water? So there's a lot of things that go into that. I mean, a lot of people think, well, I'll just, you know, I'll build something underground and I'll go underground and I'll be fine. It's a lot more to it than just that. So that's definitely something that needs to be thought about ahead of time. I find, like I said, it's something that I think about, and I would love to have something underground. But if I'm going to do something underground, I want to make sure that it's big enough where you would have, I mean, you would have to have some kind of artificial light, some kind of artificial sunlight, just because you would need that. The vitamin D, if you're not having that sunshine, are you going to have, you know, enough vitamin D on hand? People don't think about that because we normally get our vitamin D from the sun. So those are things to think about as well. And so it's definitely definitely food for thought. I mean, it's like, how big are you going to make that? And that, like I said, the bigger you make that underground bunker, the more that's going to cost. And even if you work on it a little bit at a time, you know, it's still, like I said, it's time and money, something like that. So I mean, those are things to think about. So let's hope we don't have a nuclear attack, and let's hope that one of these super volcanoes don't go off. That would really be a bad day. So anyway, but like I said, I mean, if there was ever something with a Yellowstone event, having plastic rolls on hand is be really good. You don't want to put plastic up all your windows, under your doors, any way to conceal, you know, that dust and stuff from getting into your house would be a really good idea. And so, you know, it just those are things to think about. I mean, it's guys, we can't prepare for everything. We really truly can't, and we just can do the best that we can. And you know, I mean, there's no way to know what the event would be. I mean, if it was a, you know, some kind of pandemic like Ebola that's going on right now, it's there's like 600 cases over in the Congo right now, of Ebola confirmed, which is the second most ever that they've had. But you know, if you have something that's going to kill a great majority of the population, I mean, that's a whole different ball game to try to even freaking fathom or deal with, especially, you know, if there's some kind of flu bug or something like that that was out there that was really decimating the population. So there's a lot of things that could obviously happen. I mean, sitting around contemplating and worrying about everything that could possibly go wrong, that's not healthy either, okay? But it is definitely prudent to try to be prepared as best you can for whatever scenarios that you can think of. I mean, here's what you really want to do, guys. I mean, this is kind of what I try to look at. I go, okay, if it was worst case scenario, I mean, you know, think about the worst thing that you could possibly think of, and try to prepare for that. So if it's you know, some kind of biological thing with a germ warfare, try to prepare for that. If you think that a Yellowstone event or something similar would happen, try to prepare for that. If you think it's going to be a nuclear thing, try to prepare for that. If you think it's an economic collapse, I mean, there's so many different scenarios that can happen that mean you need to do different things. So, I mean, it can be overwhelming. It really can be. But like I said, if you just take your time and work at things methodically, the biggest thing, like anybody that's brand new, that's into prepping, that's really getting into it for the first time, the biggest thing that I tell people, and I think this is going to be the biggest factor, if you look throughout the history of mankind, food and water are the two biggest factors to start out with any situation. I mean, if you have food and water, it's going to give you that advantage. You're going to be stronger, you're going to be healthier, you're going to be able to think clearer. You know, you take those away, you take food and water away, and things can get pretty dicey pretty quickly. So those would probably be the biggest things that I would say that people need to prepare for ahead of time. And I've said it many times that if you have at least a 2-week supply of food and water, you have an advantage over 95% of the people in this country, because 95% of the people do not prepare, which is absolutely sad if you think about it. It's just like, really? 95%. But it is that high. So very, very scary to think about. People just don't do it. They just don't, it's never going to happen, nothing to worry about. That's their mindset. And it's, and like I said, a disaster, guys, does not necessarily have to be end of the world. It could be the end of the way your life is. It could be, your home's being foreclosed on. It could be, your loved one has passed away. It could be, sickness, that you're out of work for a long period of time and unable to pay your bills. Because realistically, most people in this country are going paycheck to paycheck, trying to keep their head above water. And as everything continues to go up, up, and up all the time, it's just insanity to try to keep that head above water. It just gets harder and harder and harder. So, it's these are things to think about, okay? So I just wanted to share that with you. I wanted to kind of give an idea of a bunker, of how difficult it really truly would be to be in a bunker for a long period of time without getting out. And again, that would depend on what the event would be. I mean, if you're looking at radiation exposure, basically you would want to try to keep your younger people underground as much as you could. The older folks, anybody, when I say older, 40 and above, those would be the ones that would have to go out and do things, because even though we would be exposed to radiation, by the time that radiation really killed us, if it was depending on how bad it was. I mean, I'll tell you what, in the beginning, if you could stay underground for the first couple of weeks after a nuclear event, that's the smart way of doing it, okay? But then after that, you're going to have to get out. You're going to have to do things. So you're going to send your older people out there, because by the time that radiation kills them, it'll take a while. So depending on the exposure level too, obviously that's going to make a big, big difference. So those are just things to think about. I think about a lot of different things. I don't dwell on it really. I mean, it's like I still try to live my life and enjoy my life. I just try to be as prepared as I possibly can be, and I just think it's a smart thing to do. So that's why I try to share with you guys. So anyway, I am going to jump off of here and get on with my day, but today has been very overcast here at the homestead. We still get power in on overcast days, we just don't bring in as much, okay? And so, I mean, literally today, if I bring in a kilowatt of power today, I would be surprised with it as overcast as it is, but we still get power. After a Yellowstone event, we would still get power. It just wouldn't be as good for a long time. So even when it's overcast and cloudy, you still bring in power. You just don't bring in as much. Remember, guys, we are all in this together. That is important to remember. And, remember, STD. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever you're trying to do, you can do it. The only one that's going to stop you from getting there is yourself. And that's really important, because a lot of people don't think about it like that. And I switched it up today. The last thing I'm going to say is, remember, guys, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every single day. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. We never know what's going to happen. So it's really important to tell the people that you care about every single day how you feel. Okay? I hope everybody has a great day. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.